forward proxy and reverse proxy. In this video, we will understand what is a forward proxy, what are its nitty-gritties, how is it different from reverse proxy, and the feature set which are showcased by the reverse proxy. So here we start. In this diagram, we can see that we have an internal client which is in a secured network, while we have an unsecured network in terms of internet where the server is placed. So whenever that request is initiated from the secured to the unsecured part of it, that is the client towards the internet server, that means the internet server may or may not be compromised. It may be from a malicious user or somebody who had bad intentions. So we are somewhere exposing our internal network to our outside world to be attacked. In fact, the IP address of the client is exposed. The malicious website can put in some unwanted malware into that and start misusing it. So all these are the types of unauthorized access that the internet server can, via which it can compromise the internal network. Now, that is where we have the concept of a forward proxy. So what forward proxy does is it acts as a man in the middle. So that means the secured communication will forward its traffic towards the forward proxy, which will make sure that instead of client directly communicating with the internet server, it will make its own connection, get that communication done, fetch that information, and provide only the legitimate or the clean information to the internal client. That means it is not exposed to the internet, that is, the internet client is not, and whatever the content type may be, there may be pornographic or any type of content which should not be provided to the internal client, the forward proxy will block that. And in fact, it will not share across the client's IP address, malicious website cannot access the client. All these type of security posture is implemented by the forward proxy. So that means it is not just one internal client, but whichever the internal client which want to access the internet and is on the LAN part of it or the private network, they will first go to the forward proxy. Forward proxy makes sure that it sends to the right or the legitimate traffic and will block the communication if there is any malicious attack or such type of attack on the internal client is planned by the internet server. So that is about the forward proxy. Now we'll move on to the reverse proxy. So in the last slide, we saw how forward proxy is able to save or safeguard the internal clients. However, with reverse proxy, the intent is to save the internal servers which are stations inside the DMZ zone of the data center or the cloud. And it is for protection, rather protection from the external clients which are trying to access information from the internal server. So maybe the external client get can get hold of the IP address of the internal server directly. That is a compromise opportunity for the client to make use of the internal server via its IP address, or it can do a DOS or DDoS attack also. Not only attack, but also whenever there is an HTTPS communication between client and the server, there is SSL, which means exchange of keys. So encryption of the data and decryption, everything, all this overload and all this responsibility comes under the hand of the internal server. So it gets overloaded because a lot of resources, memory, CPU, everything is utilized in encryption, decryption. Now, what if we have a proxy in between, which makes sure that it can offload the internal server, the web facing server, from all these responsibilities? And that's where specifically we have the reverse proxy. Again, as the name suggests, it is a proxy. So for the external client which wants to access the internal server, they will send their request to the reverse proxy, thinking that this is the internal server which it wants to access data from. So there may be multiple clients which are trying to hit the reverse proxy. Now, reverse proxy hides first the IP address of these internal servers, and not only that, DOS attack, DDoS attacks, everything is offloaded because it is tailor made to address such type of challenges. In addition to that, for SSL, HTTPS communication, that is the encryption and decryption. This also happens here, and all the traffic that is decrypted is sent to the internal server. So now you see the overload of encrypting and decrypting was done by the internal server, but when we have a reverse proxy, it makes sure that it offloads the internal server of this type of encryption decryption and takes load of this responsibility and only sends the decrypted information so that it is easy to process by the internal server. These are some of the functionalities of the reverse proxy, but another important aspect is that it will distribute the application traffic across multiple servers. So let us say the external client wants to access application ABC. So application ABC would be hosted in all these three internal servers, and reverse proxy, based upon its algorithm, looks into which is the least utilized server and sends that traffic to that respective server. Maybe a second client from the internet wants to access. Based upon the algorithm, the reverse proxy may send it to the second one, and then subsequently third, and then first. So in this way, maybe in a round robin or based upon, as I earlier said, the algorithm base, it can send it and distribute this traffic across multiple servers for that application access. So the overload on the servers will not happen, and the experience of the end client will also be wonderful. So these are all the benefits that we can leverage out of reverse proxy. There are multiple more benefits also, but we'll be limited to these only. So this is how reverse proxy helps the internal servers and distribute the traffic by giving a better customer experience, and not only that, by providing security also. Now, this table depicts the difference between forward proxy and the reverse proxy. Many of the points, like what is the connection type, so here it is initiated from inside of the secured zone to the outside, and reverse proxy from outside zone to the inside. All these are the differences between them. And one of the important aspect is that examples of the forward proxy. We have Squid, we have CC proxy, Microsoft Forefront TMG. All these are the examples of forward proxy. These may be cloud based, these may be on-premise based applications. While for reverse proxy, Nginx, Apache HTTP server, HA proxy, all these are examples of a reverse proxy. And again, they can be appliance based or the cloud based solutions also, which vendors are providing. So if you want to use this table, you can download it from the description which has been given for this video. Hope you like this, and thank you very much.